นะคะเป็นหัวข้อการบรรยายหัวข้อสุดท้ายของวันนี้แล้วค่ะกับหัวข้อ Warehouse of the Future Today มาดูกันว่า Warehouse ในอนาคตจะเป็นอย่างไรกันบ้างค่ะขอเรียนเชิญคุณคาร์ล Managing Director APCA ferag ขอเสียงปรบมือให้คุณคาร์ลด้วยค่ะ
I will talk about the warehouse of the future, which hopefully happens really soon, and we're going to explore it together. So my speaking slot is for 1 hour, but I was told 30 minutes first, so this is going to be a 30 minutes cruise for everybody. Alrighty, my name is Karl, and I'm the Managing Director for ferag. We are a system integrator, and I'm stationed in Sydney. But as you can hear from my accent, I am Austrian. So if you hear problems with my English, it's because I'm German. But I think English is better than German today. And I don't speak Thai. I'm so sorry. I lived here for 5 years, still can't speak it. What do we do in a warehouse today? We actually have a bit of a history here. And we have a lot of innovation happening. You look around here, and it's really fun. And we have a lot of automation happening. And I want to talk about that too. But first of all, I want to explore how did we get here? How did we get to today? And that is the evolution of warehousing, the evolution of our industry. A bit of a background. I've been in this industry all my life. I joined it when I was 15. I never left the industry, so I have no idea what it is to be working outside of the warehouse industry. And the evolution that I have seen in the last 20 plus years is amazing. We started, before my time, hopefully, we started with the steam engine, the first industrial revolution, and then we slowly ended up with the second evolution. And in a warehouse, that meant we had pallets, forklift trucks, manual labor, and then we slowly got into the more interesting stuff. In the 1980s, 90s, we had computer applications, and we started storing information. We started using WMS, warehouse management solutions, for warehouses, super interesting, and with manual. And the computerization really meant that if our model didn't change, we would still be there. The big game changer for us in our industry is actually e-commerce. E-commerce is the biggest change for us. And the problem with e-commerce is that it's tiny orders. You have a lot of tiny orders that you need to fulfill at the same amount of time as you would fulfill a massive order for one store. A store order is easy. I palletize it and I get it out the door. But if I have 1,000 tiny orders instead of a store order, I have a problem. My problem is that it takes a lot longer to pick it, pack it, hand it over to a carrier, to a post, whoever does it. And that's where we ended up in the 2000s with advanced automation. And by advanced, I mean it started with conveyors. It started with, everybody remember the first pick-to-light systems? The really weird ones where you press the button and it takes a couple of seconds for the lights to go off. And people in the warehouse didn't remember what it does, and they just pressed the button because it lit up and they didn't do anything. I had this happening to me in Kuwait City for a warehouse for H&M, and people just didn't know what a pick by light does. We had to train them not to press the button without picking. And then, of course, it ended up with robotics. The first ones, mini-load and crane systems. But also you had systems like shuttle systems, the more modern stuff. And nowadays, the big hype, AMRs. You have AMRs for everything. And that now drives us in the direction of utilization of data. Game changer again. We are now into the next evolution, which is data-driven. We have artificial intelligence. I'm talking about this in one of the next slides, but it's really interesting too. And that brings us to our challenges today. What are our challenges today? The first challenge that we have is that if I'm an evolving warehouse, I will have either a lot of inventory that I need to access and I'm overcrowded, or I will have long walking distances because my model changes from a pure retail channel to an omni-channel. So I will have my issue there. I have challenges with people depending on the country, depending on my market, I either have the issue that I can't find enough people, or I have the issue that I can't put more people into my warehouse for my demand that I need to fulfill today. So it's really a people issue a lot of times, and it's an issue of inventory, inventory levels, and inventory cost. So it's a really interesting combination that the challenges we face today. And for us, on a global scale, it's really fun because we work in mature markets in Europe, Japan, Australia, where labor is very expensive, but also I can't find labor that wants to work in a warehouse, to markets in Southeast Asia where I can find labor and where it's cheap, but if I grow my business fast enough, I can't put more people into my warehouse to fulfill my orders because there would be too many people. And that is the point where you start the journey with automation. That is the point where we need to be smart, where we need to start designing our warehouses better. And that's really our challenges today. And one of the biggest challenges, and I give you a bit of history again, for my person, is that about 3 years ago, we started developing a software piece called Do Warehouse, which can act as a warehouse management system and a warehouse control system for automation, for any automation that is out there. You can control any hardware with one software. And that's the problem that we are facing if we don't do that. That you have in one warehouse, you might have a WMS for the manual processes, and you have one or two different WCSs to manage automation. And my question in this case is, where's the source of truth? Who has the information? Which system is the one that gives me my data? If it's 3 different systems, then I'm inefficient in my operation. I will not have one access point to my information. I will lose information, and I can't afford that in the warehouse of the future. Another big change, and I said that before, is retail migrates more and more direction online. And the thing of that is, COVID obviously exaggerated and multiplied the growth and the shift from retail, from stores, to my online channels. And online channels are a different game. Small orders again, small orders, more packing, more picking operation, complications of all of it. Stores are always easy, online is much harder. And that shift that we need to support in warehouses now is the omni-channel, where I need to fulfill everything in one installation with one as low as possible amount of stock, because stock is cost and we need to save costs. And then, of course, we have the hype of automation. Everybody's telling you, put my automation in your warehouse. I'm telling you, maybe don't. Automation makes sense very specifically. And I just had an interview with a student before. He's sitting back there. And he asked me, is automation the solution to everything? I was like, absolutely not. Automation means I need to double handle a lot of stock. I need to open it at inbound. I need to take it out of a carton, put it into a tote, put it into a rack, make it ready for automation. If you have a warehouse with fast-moving products, let's say fashion, where every season is about 8 weeks, and you have new products coming in every 8 weeks, the only thing you want to do in the first week is to get 80% of your stock out the door. Don't put it in automation. Pick it from a pallet. Pick it from your hanging storage. Don't double touch your product. It costs too much time. But automation is great after that. So once my initial really high demand goes out the door, I actually now have 20% of my stock left, and this stock will sit in my warehouse between 6 weeks to 6 months, really. So now I'm interested in, I need to make my fast-moving locations, my pallet locations, available for my next season. I'm going to move my stock into automation, and I can serve it from there. I can pick my online orders out from there. I can consume it really nicely. And also, automation has the advantage that once it's stored, it's safe. It's not on a pallet where I can damage it. I can make dust-proof it. So stock on automation is usually lasts longer, especially if the stock is prone to get dirty or dusty. So for B movers, perfect. I put it in a goods-to-person solution. A lot of times what we do is we also combine it with really smart slotting of software, which is really key. Again, a lot in fashion, what we do is we combine different colored products together in one storage tote to have a very good storage utilization. And why do we use different colors? Because when the person then needs to pick the product, we can say, pick the blue t-shirt. There might be 5 t-shirts in there, but there's only one blue one. So we don't have to have very low stock in a tote. We can have a full tote with different products, but we make sure it's not the same color. We make sure it's not a very similar product because we don't want to have those picking mistakes. So automation is really interesting for when a product comes down its curve and goes into a B mover down to a C mover. Once the product becomes a bit older and its access is not as required anymore, storage in automation becomes too expensive. You might want to think of either another location, another automation location, could be AutoStore, or it could be a graveyard. Sorry for that word. Could be a graveyard, and that could be manual or automated. But you want to move it away from automation potentially, because storage in automation is expensive. So it's really interesting. We spent a year developing our artificial intelligence module for slotting to address those issues that I don't believe that a person can actually slot a warehouse perfectly, because it's a lot of repetitive data. It's a lot of, you need to find a lot of trends in a lot of data, and we're really bad at that. Humans are horrible at doing that. Machine learning is great at that. Machine learning can identify trends, can identify peaks and repetitive patterns really well. So we use machine learning for slotting. We use people for the manual part of the warehouse. That really works well. We have great customer success stories, especially in the fashion industry, where we have a lot of SKUs pushing through the warehouse really fast. When it comes to automation, you have, that's my only graph, I promise. And it's I tried to make it as easy as possible. So the complexity is here. And the higher it is, the more complex my warehouse will be, my automation is. The throughput is here, low throughput to really high throughput. My problem is that if I have a very high throughput, I have very high complexity. And what I can see is that if I have a low complexity and not too much throughput, I'll stick to manual, except for my A movers, different story that we had before, but for a general rule, manual is pretty good. And then game changer in the last 5 to 10 years was the AMR solutions, the mobile racks, AMR tote-based solutions, really good for less complex, bit more throughput, scalable, I can play with it. So the first entry point in automation, a lot of times for our customers that are manual, is actually an AMR solution, a mobile rack solution, and we go from there. And then I put in the goods-to-person ASRS solution. I know that an AMR is also an ASRS, an automated storage and retrieval machine, but a lot of people want to separate it, so I do. In this case, ASRS is a shuttle system, a crane-based system, or any other automation that is not a robot driving on the floor. This, of course, has a higher complexity, higher cost, and once this thing is bolted down, really hard to change. AMRs, easier to change, I can take them with me, I can move around. ASRS, bolted down, game over. Really hard to move. We tried a couple of times with our customers, and then on top of that, you can go in really highly complex automation. A really great example is our customer JD Sports, globally. Very high complex automation, but huge amount of demand of throughput, huge amount of omnichannel demand for store and for online. So in that case, it pays off. They have that many orders to fulfill, to have a high amount of complexity. That would then be an automated pick with pick arms, automated decanting, so putting goods into totes, where you really try to replace as many people as you can in a warehouse. It becomes static, but it can work 24/7. So it's really the question of how much throughput do I need, how much orders do I need to fulfill a day, and then I need to grow in complexity. The simple rule that I've learned from my first ever customer in 1998, and now a dear friend of mine, is that keep the paper as wide as possible. If you keep it as simple as possible, it will work. And that's hopefully the meaning of this graph. So now what's the key features of a futuristic warehouse? What we always say is that we want to take care of everything that happens in a warehouse. We want to take care of everything that happens with inbound, truck and container arrival bookings. A lot of times we interface with suppliers to book their container to a particular time slot of the warehouse. We then calculate the content of the container via advanced shipping notifications to make sure we have the right people and equipment available. We can calculate how long it will take to unload. We can calculate how many products do you need to teach in, capture measurements or other criteria that you need to teach in. And where does the stock go? Does it go into pick locations? Does it go into storage locations? And it really is its own science. This plays into stock and operators, outbound obviously, automation, which is only now a small part obviously, if we look at it holistically. And the really interesting pieces here are operators, stock, outbound I think everybody knows pretty much. A huge item for outbound obviously is cubing and waiving. How do you keep the work flowing? I've seen a lot of solutions that just push down orders as they come in. It really is interesting to start analyzing when you play with capacities. What we do is we analyze people's capacities as they work, and we analyze the automation capacity, and the system should never overload the warehouse. If you overload a warehouse, you will have a bottleneck, you will have a standstill in an area. A standstill in an area means your performance decreases immediately. It's hard to recover, it takes time. If you keep the constant flow in a manageable manner for manageable performance, your ultimate goal of throughput will be achieved. There's a lot of smarts in there, there's a lot of ideas and a lot of concepts that had to go in there to really manage a warehouse well, to really keep the just correct amount of pressure on people and robotics and hardware to make sure that your warehouse performs at peak. Seen this a lot of times that it's way too much. Stock, obviously, we want to keep our inventory levels as low as possible, simply because it's money, it's investment. And also within the warehouse, the challenge is always, where is my stock? Is it available for picking, or is it just in a storage location? When do I move stock from a storage location to a pick location? How do I do it? How do I comply to requirements that are governmental? Cycle counting versus annual stock take. So many topics in stock. If you want to talk about stock with me, find me later. We can go for a 3-hour conversation, but it's always interesting. Operators, what we always see is that people only work if they trust and understand the process that they are guided through. If I'm an operator in a warehouse and I don't believe in the process, I will fight it and then I will make a mistake. What we are trying and what we are always doing with our customers is to find the best way that people are enabled and trust the process. And what we do especially is that we give our clients the tool set to change the process themselves. I do not want to charge any of my customers money to change a process in a warehouse. If they go into the configuration of our product, they can change the screen. They can change wording. Every warehouse has different wording. We are not the experts for your words. You change them. We support, we help, but the driving seat of a manual process is with the operation. They know it best. So we really enable our customers to do this. And operators and automation together, we track everything. We track every second everybody spends in the warehouse. We know exactly what they do when, and we use this data to analyze. We use this data to calculate the real cost of each order in your warehouse. We calculate how many seconds have I spent doing this particular thing in my warehouse. And then you can drive a report improving your process. You can say, in my picking process, I have a X% error rate. The error rate costs me that amount of money. Do I need to improve it? Do I need to improve my expenditure on this? Super interesting things. We are using machine learning here as well to analyze trends, to analyze repetitive patterns, to provide our customers with suggestions on how to improve their warehouse. And the same is for people and automation. We also analyze robots and automation to do the same thing. And lastly, reports and dashboards. Just important to have data. Usually, I know a lot of systems that delete data after 3 months or 1 year. We just don't. We don't delete data. We have this new concept of keeping data alive, because data that you keep becomes a learning set for your future. So important. Artificial intelligence only works with data. And I never trust a sales forecast. I don't know about you. Sales forecasts are usually 10% truth. So we usually say, our customers tell us, hey, our warehouse starts improving and getting better by itself after 3-4 months. It's like, yes, because it's collecting data. And the AI module becomes better because it has more data available. It sees more patterns, it sees more trends. So really interesting field. Here we come again. We have our disconnected systems. And what we really want to achieve, we want to have one system. We want to have a single source of truth that manages everything. And that's the change. And that's what we need to change in our thinking. We really need to change that one integrator with their own hardware has their own WCS that only manages their own hardware. That doesn't work. It's not okay for the future. We need one integrator. We need one software house to really have a solution that manages everything, regardless if it's your own hardware or a third party. We have warehouses where we control 4 different vendors in one warehouse with our software. That's what we need to do. We need to create a single source of truth, a single source of processing, a single source of management, a single source of data. Only then can we succeed. Only then have we enough information to be better than our competition. If I stick to the old pattern, I'm not going to make it in my warehouse. It's not enough. I need to analyze, I need to work, I need to centralize my data and my information. It's really important. That leads to the continual improvement of warehouse operation. I touched on it with artificial intelligence. We're doing this with AI, but we're also doing this with reporting, with suggesting your warehouse operation, hey, this process costs you the most, you should improve it. And then you can do it yourself. You don't need us, you don't need to give us money. We help you to improve it yourself. Machine learning powered operations, especially around slotting. Again, humans are pretty bad at slotting usually. Repetitive patterns are not our strength. Machine learning is great in a warehouse, not for everything. I don't believe that AI is still a solution to everything, but it's a solution to everything where I have data and patterns. That's where the solution is at home. In ASR solutions, storage. How do I find the perfect storage location? Repetitive pattern. Slotting, repetitive pattern. To an extent, waiving, repetitive pattern mixed with others. So there's a lot of stuff we can use in a warehouse, but not everything. Smart sortation management. That's such a great title. We came up with this with our customer Meijer. Meijer is the biggest retailer in Australia. They have the biggest chain of stores, huge, massive stores. They also are online now. They have a massive amount of online presence. And with Meijer together, as our other customer, we now touch 25% of e-commerce in Australia via our software product. Smart sortation is what we do with these customers. You have 3 different carriers that have a contract with you as a national distribution center. And your custom order comes in with a service that is expected, standard, express, and an address. Our solution then contacts those carriers, gets a quote from each carrier, We have a configuration for your contractual obligations as well, if there is a volume configured. And our solution can define, in this case today, that's the carrier we should go with and save you money and still have the same service quality that you promised to your customer. And then we sort it to the correct carrier in dispatch. It's completely driven by software. There's no decision making required by people. This enabled Maya to fulfill all their online orders in one central location in Melbourne. Instead of, before we went live, they actually fulfilled their orders from all their stores in Australia. The change is massive. You now have one negotiated contract with a carrier for high volume. You get a massive discount. Your stock doesn't need to be doubled up in every store. It's centralized in a national distribution center. Huge, huge game changer. Our smart waiving again, this is about how much capacity can I use in my warehouse without overloading it or underloading it? How can I keep people as busy as possible without overloading the system, without giving too much pressure on somebody? I need to keep a very smooth operation going. And it needs to be from the first moment of when I go live in the morning, the ramp up of my warehouse to the ramp down. I don't believe that a warehouse can only work with a huge amount of orders. I've seen this before. Warehouse solutions work when there's only a huge amount of orders in a pool. No, it needs to work from the first moment I turn this thing on to the moment I turn it off. Really important. Otherwise, you lose a lot. The efficiency that you gain under high pressure, you lose in the beginning at the end of your shifts. If you don't have this smart waiving, that is really order fulfillment algorithms to calculate through what happens if I'm in a low throughput time. Really important. And replenishment. Replenishment is traditionally done outside of the picking time, and it needs to be smarter. We need to be so much smarter with this. I can't afford to have 16 hours of picking and then I do overnight replenishment. I need to make sure that I can do this at the same time as I am picking, that I'm not standing in my way, that I don't block stock. Otherwise, my replenishment becomes hugely expensive. I don't know here, but night shifts in Australia are sort of a nightmare. We pay huge penalty rates. So our solution can replenish really smartly throughout the day, again with a capacity management. It can replenish before and after shifts if need be, but we try to keep everybody busy. We try to keep everybody at capacity. And that actually works out really well. So we have a couple of we asked all our customers. Christine here for our marketing asked all our customers, not me. But we have really, really great feedback. Those are not lies. Those are small excerpts of what we get from our customers. And my personal mission is that my customer is happy. I want to go in a warehouse and see that they are happy there. That's great. That's amazing to me. Then my mission is done. If a customer is not happy, I'll make sure they are. We will stick around until this warehouse works. That's our promise to all our customers. There's no way we're not going to do this. And this reflects really in our statements here. And it's really fun. The first one is actually, I think this is Maya who came to us. So they first were searching for a warehouse control system, and they wanted to extend their own WMS. And then we convinced them to trust us and to go with us as a full solution. And we are now the only solution in their warehouse, not in one warehouse, in all their warehouses. It's a national partnership. We are their only exclusive software partner. Fantastic. And the feedback couldn't be better. Then the other one is quite fun as well. It's our first ever customer where we did a sortation solution. And we were brought in to take over the sortation software because it didn't work. And we had 2.5 weeks to do it. And there was Christmas in the middle. And we went live. We got the order on the 23rd of December. We went live 1st of Feb. So we were a little bit delayed, but it was quite good. Super happy customers. We can walk in unannounced. Amazing. We have other customers. The Iconic, greatest e-commerce retailer in Australia, part of Global Fashion Group. I think what the last time they told me, their staff wants to work in our area. So we only manage a part of their warehouse as a WCS. Their staff wants to work with our software because it's the easiest to use. That's the feedback I want. It's really cool, really like it. So I hope that's me. I hope the importance of the warehouse of the future is clear. We need to combine information. We need to become agnostic to hardware. We need to combine people and hardware together and analyze the process and improve that. If we can do that, then we have a really, really good warehouse operation on our hand. If we concentrate only on automation or only on manual, or if we concentrate on 3 different solutions in one warehouse, it's not going to work anymore. We just need to do better. I know the Q&A section is usually completely useless because nobody asks, but I still put it up if anybody has a question. Of course you, come on. We can continue our interview, come on.
Hi, so I know that you are really big saying a lot about the importance of automation and preparing warehouses of the future. But what I'm really, how can I say this? Really questioning about is what are the costs of like transitioning to this modern version, this future version of a warehouse? So let's say I already have a manual warehouse, say 200 square meters. What is the cost of transitioning to this future version of a warehouse? Do we need to shut down all operations during this transition, or can I operate with a lower capacity? Thank you.
That is such a good question, and I'm surprised we didn't discuss this before. There's a story to this that I can. It's easier to explain it with a customer story. It's not a customer yet, but we're working on it. There's a company in Beryl, in Australia, and Beryl is a tiny town, and we always call it the retirement home of Australia because I don't know why people just go there to retire. And there's a warehouse of scented candles, and it's a small warehouse. And they produce their own scented candles in the Philippines, bring it to Australia, into this tiny town in nowhere. Don't ask me. And they came to us, and there's a pure manual warehouse. And it's not much bigger, it's like maybe 500 square meters. And they asked us, we want to automate. Not because we have the highest amount of orders. We have a low amount of orders, but we can't find staff that is young enough to lift the scented candles. A box of scented candles is actually really heavy. And if your average age of your employees are 58 to 60, then you don't want them to lift 30 kilos all the time, all day. So we said, what can we do? And we said, in this case, we can automate. So it's not the requirement is not throughput, the requirement is health and safety, the requirement is staff. And we got them a really good solution with one of our partners, with an AMR mobile rack solution, a full WMS from our side to get all the benefits, 3,600 bin locations in mobile racks for 1.1 million Australian. And no, you don't need to shut down your operation. We will do a brownfield, which means that we first implement the manual warehouse, and we actually wait for 2 months to get people to get used to the manual process, to get used to the new screens. Then we slowly migrate over into automation. It's a proven concept. Get the people used to the software first, get them to accept it, then bring in automation. Really important. We're doing the same thing with another customer that have a massive warehouse and a cold store. And for them, we said it's a 24/7 operation. And they want to automate it, and we said, yes, manual first, and then aisle by aisle into automation. And the good thing is, because you already have a unified solution, you already have a system managing everything, if anything happens, we can roll back to manual in 5 minutes. We can take the AMR out of the aisle, we can put the forklift truck back in. Really important for them. Our USP in that case was not that we are the cheapest, but we are the only ones who can roll back that fast. And in the 24/7, you can't win back anything. Time is gone. Thanks for the question. Really cool question. You can find us at the ferag stand if you want to talk, if you have any other questions. If you want me to bore you with more stories of customers, I can do that as well. Just find us at the ferag stand. I'm happy to be here in Bangkok. Thank you.